Oh, I can hear it. All right. Listening to us waste time here. All right, calling to order. Today's Borough of Conshohocken Authority meeting. Today is March 25th, and we did not have an executive session prior to our meeting, and I don't think we need an executive session at the end, so I think we're good from an executive session standpoint.
I have one item for a brief update to the board.
Okay.
In this potential litigation
Okay.
that probably resolved, but we'll just.
Okay, so can we do that at the end?
Oh, yeah,
All right, so for the record, we'll do an executive session at the end of this meeting related to a legal matter. Let us do roll call, please.
Aparna Chibber.
Here.
Christine Bertino.
Here.
Jack Ambler.
Here.
George Bass.
Here.
Tina Sokolovsky.
Here. All right, if everybody would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Do we have any public comment prior to the meeting about any agenda items this evening? No. Okay, and there's no public in the meeting room. So let us go right to the approval of minutes. It doesn't look like we have any key speakers or anything this evening, right? Okay. So hearing no invited guests or speakers, do I have a motion to accept the February 25th meeting minutes as submitted?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone approved? Anyone disapproved? Motion carries. Wow. Sorry, everyone. Brain and mouth are not working together. All right, for our reports, our first report this evening is our financial report. Does anyone have any questions related to the financial report as submitted? Hearing no questions. Just get to my page where it has the total on it. I will be looking for an approval for accounts payable in the amount of $113,798.81.
Make the motion. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Since we are spending money, we will do a roll call vote.
Aparna Chibber. Aparna Chibber.
Yes.
Okay. Jack Ambler.
Yep.
Christine Bertino.
Yes.
George Bass.
Yes.
Tina Sokolovsky.
Yes. Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the financial report as stated?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to accept the financial report into record. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda this evening is our solicitor's report. So I will turn the mic over to Nicole.
Good evening, everyone. I do not have any action items for this evening. We just have a very brief update for executive session.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the solicitor this evening? Hearing no questions, do I have a motion to accept the solicitor's report this evening?
Make the motion.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to go a little bit out of order before we go to the engineer's report. Could we do the finance director's monthly highlights? Do you want to call out any of your monthly highlights, or board, if we have any questions about the monthly highlights that we received?
I didn't put anything much new on the monthly highlights, but I did add 2 new EFTs.
Okay.
Next month, I'm going to do the entire list as long as it works out well. So the checks will be less. Also, Plymouth will be in on Friday to do their vouching for their portion of the audit.
Any questions related to the finance director's monthly highlights? Do we accept those into record? Motion to accept?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Now we can move on to the engineer's report, and I think you have stuff to talk about today.
I do. First thing is the Chapter 94 reports. As we went over a preliminary report last month, the major concern is, quite honestly, our flows have gone up very insignificantly. Our flow per EDU basis has remained at 127. Last year, it was slightly lower, but that's because we booked the connections that people moved in. So our organics are up by 30%. That's pretty significant in there. And I also looked at the loading per person is up by 30% as well. So I wasn't sure, hey, my pounds are up, but is that really translating? You might just have more people in there. So that's something that is relatively concerning, only because we came if your max month goes over the limit, and we came within 5% of that. So, we're at 55,000 or 5,500 is our, maximum limit. And, we were right in there at, 5,350. So, Brent and Ed are splitting samples. We're trying to, to give you an order of magnitude, we have about over 9,000 customers. To go up by a third in a year, and you can look at the charts in here, I don't have to go over it, but there's a slope. The slope of my hydraulics is very flat. We added 400, but 400 into 9,000. It's not a significant number. It should be upward trending, but not. And, that's kind of shown on, and I'll do it real quick, on the second page of the handout that I gave you. You can see that trend line right there is very, flat, trending up, but very flat. If you go back 2 more pages, and here's my organic graph, you can see that is a much steeper curve. So we have to find this out. If it continues, we could be in a position where we have plenty of hydraulic capacity to sell and no organic. And once I go over, my max month goes over, I am in what's considered an existing organic overload, which means I have to submit a corrective action plan. The performance of my plant's not being impacted. We're not seeing it in the performance of the plant. So it's an early warning sign, and that's why I keep on bringing it up to you, that we've got to track this thing down, because I don't want to be in a place where I can't do connections, or I have to do a report to DEP and then an upgrade to the treatment plant when I don't believe it's our users. What is it? I don't know. My suspicions are something that is very high it's high oxygen demand. What is a high oxygen demand? Blood waste, dairy waste, alcohol. My guess would be alcohol related here. You know what I mean? That there's something that way. So we're going to increase our frequency, try to figure out, isolate it out. Can we eliminate West Conshohocken? Then can we eliminate split Conshohocken in half? And then figure out where it's coming from. So we're in there, but on the last page in there, I think was actually something that I don't normally provide you, but I think it's good information for you as a board to really know kind of what's going on. So you can see the number of connections in EDUs by area for the last 5 years and what's kind of projected for the next 5 years. And I think it's I should have brought the list of, I actually, in my report, I actually listed out by the proposed developments that we actually have that are generating those. Really, when you look going forward, the really only main development that we have as we really go forward is primarily 43433 Washington Street. That's 600 units. So that is really my projected connections, as I look going forward in there. And when you look going back, we had a number, 3 or 4 big ones. But I think from a financial standpoint, I think this is important information. This is where the Chapter 94 report bridges not only the treatment plant performance, but your future financial performance. And I think it's helpful for you to look at it from your financial performance of, why are we doing so good? Look how many connections you made, and where are we going to be in the future? Next 3 years, not looking too shabby. After that, don't know. So, but you can at least feel confident that your revenue is going to increase over the next 3 years because of connections. And that's a double gift. It's a gift of both tapping fees one time, but more importantly, long-term user fees. So the Chapter 94 report to me is, it's as valuable from treatment plant performance as it is a planning tool for you guys financially when you go into your budget and you go in, and when you start to see expenses rising during a year, well, yeah, we added 400 connections, but our revenue should go up with it too. But I think what's also important on that last thing is to give you, while these numbers were more impressive 5 years ago, we were down at 6,000 EDUs. We're now at 9,000, growing to 10,000 EDUs. So the impact of these developments is much less on your budget and much less, and much less on the treatment plant. So, that's where, and I gave you guys an updated handout just because I think it's a good reference, and especially that last page. I think that's really something that plays into your role as a board on multiple levels, and not just from the engineering and operations standpoint.
So that development's a split development. Part of it is in White Marsh. Are we
Yes.
taking all of the sewer?
Yes, oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I forget the details on the tapping fees, because there's some of them in there and some of them aren't, but yes.
Yeah,
But
okay.
no, we get 100% of that.
Okay.
Yep, and it's like a quarter of the buildings are ours, And then, a lot of it depends on, lately we've had a lot of, they're all apartments. So it's kind of like, within 3 months, they're not fully occupied, but reasonably well occupied. Unlike a residential development that may do 4 to 6 a month, and they go in. I think Pulte's for sale. The Pulte portion of, I call it Bar Harbor, what's the one they're building right now? I forget what
On
we
West
call it.
Countryside?
It's on the countryside.
Countryside?
The
The one down
Bob
by the
Dwyer
trail.
was a developer. What? 400 West Elm. Yes.
Tall one.
Yes, the tall ones, yeah. Because they're going to have a for sale component in them as well. So that Pulte has, so. Any questions on the Chapter 94 reports? I didn't want to overkill it, but it's just, to me, it's a really important tool for you as a board to be able to refer to, both financially as well as operationally. And it helps us during the rest of the year when we have higher than expected operating expenses and more repairs on our treatment plant. We have more usage.
So what is mediation for organic?
Aeration. Honestly, so,
More
well.
bugs?
Nah, yes and no. The hard part here is in a traditional plant, you add more air and you add more bugs. Here, we really can't. So ours would be the two things that we can do, and I think you've already done it, is we have 2 primary clarifiers, we can turn both of them on. Right now, we only run one of the 2. So the primary clarifiers drop out probably about 70% of the organics and all the grit. And then we go into RBCs. RBCs, there's really nothing you can do besides turn a third train on. You can't add more bugs because they're rotating wheels. And think of it as moss growing on the side of a wheel. Once you get it flakes off. Like it just naturally, so you can't add any more bugs. You really can't spin it much faster, so most places add a bigger blower, add more air. I decrease my wasting, increase my amount of bugs, more bugs eat more. Here I can't. I can put my third train on. So we have 3 trains, we're only operating 2 of the 3. You know, but I should only be operating 2 of the 3. You know, each train is 1 million gallons a day. So,
Have you ever looked at activating those RBCs? Could you get a mixed liquor inside those RBCs as well?
nope,
It wouldn't be,
wouldn't do you any good. It just trickles right down. It's a static water level, it overflows. All the water does really is give me a place to trap oxygen. That's really all I'm doing, is spinning it around.
I guess if you aerated that water, it would pull off too much of the sludge off of the.
Yeah, so we have aeration down in there, but the purpose of the aeration is to fluff.
Actually slough it off.
Yeah, it's actually like a waste, you know, valve on it. So, you know, you're kind of where you're at. There's different density media, so the holes in that media is different. So ours is set up with 3 low density and then you're 7. I think, I might be off. I think you're 3 low density, 4 medium density, and then 3 high density. So you can increase your high density is smaller holes, but you get more of them, more surface area, you know, so you get your rough treatment, and then you refine it as you go down through. There's not much difference. I mean, it's not the way you can fine tune an extended air plant. By the first area, you have 2.5 DO that, you know, you can't vary your air and switch valves. It's kind of a plug and play. It's 2 or 3. I'm simplifying it a little bit, but not much. So the answer is first thing you do is you turn the second primary clarifier on. You get it out, you get as much of that organic matter out and drop it out in your primary clarifier, which goes right to the waste. And then you go back.
Might increase the sludge that we're hauling then though, right?
What?
It might increase some sludge hauling then.
No, sludge is sludge.
You think it?
I mean, yeah, your inert volatile is your inert volatile. It's what comes in. You know, we're just dropping it out more efficiently. You know, because everything, it's primary clarifier. It's basically gravity's going to drop it down. You know, I'm going to get a little bit more out of it. My primary will go up, my secondary will go down. You know, it's pounds in. That's not true, but for the most part, pounds in equals pounds out. You know, if it's not going to the stream, I got to tie it up with my sludge. We are definitely. I thought we were turning the second primary clarifier because we never decanted efficiently before. We're now decanting very efficiently on our sludge process, reducing our sludge costs. That means I got to treat it twice. Well, I'd rather treat it twice than pay for it to go out twice. You want the bugs to eat themselves. That's the whole goal of aerobic digestion. You want to do as much biologically inside that plant walls because the only thing that I really control is my sludge going out. You know, my electric's my electric. So.
How have we progressed in isolating the problem? I know
We
you
just
said.
started.
So,
And they had problems with some meters or some batteries in there. You just started. It's honestly, you're not looking for a needle in a haystack because you're more strategic than that, but you have to sample it when they are dumping. So really what you do, the natural progression of what do you really do? So you try to sample it. I don't want to catch somebody, I want to stop somebody, I want to figure out where it is. Hopefully it's something innocent and we can turn this off. What do you do if you can't find it that way? You basically do a PR blitz where you start to put some notifications out that, hey, organic's loading up, please be careful, to the general public. Somebody knows they're dumping alcohol or something down there, it's going to scare them and they're probably going to stop. That's what's happened in a lot of my other places. I put that out in my newsletter, on my website, in a flyer in the building, and guilty conscious work.
do we pretty much think it's alcohol, considering that?
No, that's Fred Ebert. That
No.
is Fred Ebert opinion only. I
Okay.
have no basis to say that.
Still have to have a lot of alcohol.
Isn't there a percentage of like, well, where would dairy and blood come from, and it would be
Well,
likely
that's what kind of gets me. You don't have butcher shops. You don't
Right.
have grocery
Just keep in
stores.
mind, everything we do is after the fact. So I have no fingerprints. We're gonna have to do, we're at preliminary stages. This could take us
And we
a
want to see
year
where it's
to
coming from.
figure
But, I
out,
mean,
so,
you are up by a third in a year.
yeah.
Like, it's significant. So whatever is doing this, whatever, is adding a third to 9,000 EDUs. Like, we're not this little 50,000 gallon a day Schwenksville plant. You know, you're a 1,000,000 gallon a day flow. You have 9,000 customers, 9,000 equivalent households connected. And in 1 year, it goes up by a third.
But even, I mean, alcohol is not, I mean, it's strong, but it's not like, you'd have to be dumping a lot of it, though, you know?
I mean, it'd either be alcohol, it would be, you know, like a high sugar content. It's a high carbon, you know, it's a high carbon source normally, it's what you have. And like I said, dairy, blood, like normal household BOD, 250 milligrams per liter. You know, dairy waste, 20,000 milligrams per liter. Ice cream manufacturer, very, very high. You know, things like that. So I shouldn't point out alcohol. I should point out high, you know, sugar content
Do you
laden
have any thoughts
things.
on this?
It has to be something
It's
like,
it's almost like.
like nobody set up a processing plant that's giving me a third. It's got to be something that's relatively compact that's coming in.
They say that some of these.
You know, I don't know what it is, but we haven't seen, it hasn't,
Lost revenue for-
I don't think it's chemical, because it's not impacting my treatment plant. I don't think it's somebody dumping on us. It's happening too regularly. And it's honestly, it's trending. Whoever's doing it is getting more and more, doing it more and more. Yeah, well, I mean, my slope of that line, so. I mean, it's not impacting us yet, but I don't want to wait too long.
Sure.
You know, and
Yeah.
to the point that now you got to spend money and you don't know who did it, you know? And then, hey, listen, if it's somebody that's doing it, does it impact me? Amy, we can,
Yes.
maybe it makes sense.
Right.
Or maybe, you know, you got to pre-treat it.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, has our measuring method changed?
No, and they're splitting samples to see if it's a lab error. I actually had them go out and do a dye test. I honestly thought 85% it's my sludge. My sludge is getting back into my sample point. So, and, because you don't know where drain lines, it's supposed to go here, but somebody 30 years ago dug up a pipe and connected it there because there was a clog. They went and did a dye test, and he said it's not going through my sampling point, your sampling point. You know, and so we actually put dye down from all the sludge processes. Can't get it.
I still think it's worthwhile to look at AmerisourceBergen and their internal lab operations.
That's really what, we want to try to isolate it a little bit, because we have to be very, very, very careful with our tone in how we go out. And
trying
really,
to identify it so we
and
know how
that's
to
where,
fix it.
a lot of times I do that, I say the PR thing, but a public notification of just an announcement, hey, our organic loadings are significantly higher in our newsletter, are significantly higher. We're out investigating. If anybody has any ideas or things like that, please contact the authority.
I mean, the increase has kind of coincided with their being here, right?
So based on your chart, it looks like the increase happened somewhere mid-2024.
Yeah.
So what changed in operations across the borough in that time frame that we can, it's not a bad thing, right? This is what the business is. We need to figure it out so that we can solve for
Uh-huh.
it and then strategically plan
it's-
for it.
Right.
It's
There's no,
Amerisource.
there's no tone, I don't think, it's just
No,
trying
oh,
to
no,
figure it out.
yeah, it's and I'm always friendly business, I don't want to, you know, think that I'm on a witch hunt. AmerisourceBergen, you had the full occupancy of the apartments, you know, but most of that was 23 into 24.
You got 7 and 8 Tower Bridge that are full.
The line, the slope of that line goes like this, and then it shifts. You know, you can see that slope of that line, 2 years, very, very consistent. And I would say it probably started in 22, not 24, 22. And that line went, that's a normal slope. And if you look at the,
You also had COVID.
like, you know, this is your hydraulic line. You see how that's a gentle upslope? And I put these to the same basic scale. That's, you know, that's what you expect. You have 400 EDUs on 9,000. You're not expecting something like that. When you see this, boom. And that's my limit. You can see how close we came right there to hit my limit.
it's not like anti-business to like ask these questions, I think. And then,
Oh, no,
like,
no, no,
like,
no, no, no,
if they're,
no,
like, if
no.
they're gonna
And-
contribute, as long as they
And what I want to
pay
be able to
and
do is,
out, that's fine.
if I can, with the sampling, eliminate West Conshohocken, eliminate Plymouth, what goes up that way. And then the bad part with the Amerisource bargain, it is all my likely, if it's an alcohol kind of thing, it's Fayette Street. It's like, they're all right there. Like, you know what I mean?
They'd have to like all be dumping simultaneously together though, like all starting in
But you don't have any
2022.
new ones along
But,
Fayette.
and.
You'd have to like a brewery, you wouldn't be just a bar.
That would, yeah. I don't think it's a bar or restaurant. I mean, there's no,
It'd be impossible.
to have the impact of almost 3,000 people? No, no bar is being that successful, and nobody's dumping, like, this isn't dumping a keg. This is, like a major, is there a packaging? The other places I normally look that are very, very, very high, low concentrations are recycling centers or repackaging centers. Because they'll get damaged, out-of-date goods. They'll go in and they will literally crush them. So they'll get a shipment of Gold Iced Tea back, extra sweet, 2 truckloads. They put them in a machine, they crush it, all the iced tea goes down the drain, and they recycle the plastics. Things like that are the kind of places that, hey, is there something down here that is now recycling or repackaging or that? I mean, there's, and that could be the same thing with milk. They could be taking milk in. It's definitely something that,
So that I don't feel like I'm nagging every month, what's the projected position or goal that we'll be in next month? Like, what do we expect to
I
have
think you're gonna be 3 months before you're gonna know anything at all.
before we start eliminating?
Yeah, before we definitively eliminate. Because the fact that I get one high sample doesn't point me in a direction. It highlights me. It could be, the guy dumped that keg right when I have my sample thing.
Right.
So I look for trends.
Okay.
And then even once I find that and I find an area, then I'm gonna sample it 5 or 7 days a week. Because is this a Tuesday operation? Is this a Monday through Friday operation? And I'm gonna honestly focus on the days that I sample at the treatment plant. Because they're the days that I'm picking it up at the treatment plant, so they're the days I wanna sample out in the system. So it's a process of elimination that sometimes gets wider or sometimes gets narrower. So I don't want to set an expectation other than to give you an update every month of this is what we found, and now I feel comfortable eliminating West Conshohocken. Now I feel comfortable eliminating that. And then I make it to the point where I've eliminated everything. And then I said, oh shit, I gotta start over again.
Right.
Until you find it, you don't really know, what I mean? And I'll be honest with you, I dealt with this in Worcester. 3 weeks we found it. 3 weeks we found it. And we solved it with, boom. I've had others in Avondale Borough and New Garden Township on year 6. We have no idea.
I guess,
Just as a quick note, we're gonna do a right to know request to the county for all food producers. And I'll do it for Plymouth, West, and us, Conshohocken area. I mean, that'd be a first, next go around, we'll ask that, and I know I have avenues to their office to get it quickly, through our solicitor's office.
Yeah, I mean, like the borough, you're not aware of anything that's significantly changed as Amerisource Burger.
So it's the
I mean,
easiest way to.
there's,
The
and
county
even,
will know.
Well, I think we're
I-
gonna
I-
use from taxes if we're getting more.
Yeah, and I've reached out to a couple of the borough staff, or my staff, Rich Lonkoy did, and they're like, Fred, there's really nothing that's jumps out at us, like, I mean, there's no, there's no new industry, there's no, and that's where, my question goes to, hey, what are they doing over in Plymouth? Like, is there something up in that area that, because I don't really monitor it that much over in there, but they haven't had a single new connection.
This is a.
And that's why I went back and looked at that. There's been almost no connections to West Conshohocken.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody new. Now, I don't know change of tenants, but quite honestly, West Conshohocken, it's office. There's a handful of restaurants, it's office.
was it an existing connection that's changed their operation dramatically?
That's what I
in
mean,
some
like,
way?
and
That's
change
gonna
of
be hard
use
to
is
chase.
there. So, we're working on it, the staff's working on it, we're killing a few brain cells, because I'm, not panicking,
but
You have to watch it.
But yeah, but not sleeping real good, you know? And, you know, and maybe this thing, this trend evens out and that line slows on down, you know? Because, you know, is there lab error? Yes, there's some lab error. But that's why I look at a slope of a line and not data points, you know, so.
But a public, maybe reaching out, would you reach out to just businesses?
Wait, let's do at least another month of split on it.
I think we're 2 months of sampling. Like, I want to figure out what I know and what I don't know before I start, because then you get rumor
I'm just
mill.
curious, like, if we do these samplings and we wait like till the next quarter, would it be to business only? Or is it
No, every
all
customer.
residential and
Same, like, we
business?
put a newsletter out. I just put it in the newsletter, put it in there, you know what I mean? Like, it'll get out pretty fast.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then what I'm thinking about doing is, like, maybe June, doing a mini Chapter 94 report. Just see, does this trend line kind of continue? And kind of, because to me, 3 or 4 months isn't a lot of data. But once I get 6, give you guys kind of, hey, this is what that curve looks like.
Coming back down?
Yeah, because it's not, I mean, it's like 4 hours work. It's not a lot of work compared to, because what I don't want to do is we talk about it for a year and it gets a lot worse. And you're like, Fred,
Right.
you know,
Right.
you should have hit a lot more higher notes earlier. So, you know, we're going to kind of do that. So,
Do you have any idea what it's costing you to investigate this?
I don't want to say it's pennies, but I mean, what are the samples? $1,000, $2,000 a month?
Yeah.
I mean, you're $2,000.
Pretty much just-
You're $2,000 a month plus your
Yeah.
labor. So, I mean, I don't want to say
So
it's
it's
de
one of these
minimis.
things, like if it, goes into a year and then we might, there might be ways we could optimize it.
And
but-
2,000 a month is probably high. I mean,
That's what we got, yeah.
yeah, you're probably $500 a month. How much is a BOD test? 38?
Right around there.
Yeah, so every test for every sample is $38. So if I'm doing, 6 tests, I'm on $160, nothing. So that was way high.
Labor's minimal too. It's-
Yeah, I mean, $2,000 a year is probably what you're talking about.
Okay, then it's like, I mean, well, then the other end of that is also like if, maybe you could do more than if, I mean, like if you think,
Well,
if you need
It's a matter of,
it.
I only have so many samplers,
Okay.
and so much time. And it's hard to find a sample location that's safe. I mean, you're Conshohocken, everything's a
Access,
road.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I can't just plop these things down, and I need a 24-hour composite. So, I can't just, chain it to the light pole and pray nobody steals it. I'm not doing that. I may change my tune in 6 months and say, I said I'm not chaining it to a light pole and hoping nobody steals it.
Cameras.
Yeah.
We do have
I mean, we literally do that in Chester, like, 'cause that's the only place it is. So we literally just chain them to a light pole and pray nobody pulls the cable out, so. I appreciate the board's involvement on that, just because it is an important topic. Real quickly, the line of contract, the guy is giving us a new maintenance bond. They've agreed, to do that. Influent pump station and electrical upgrade. We are going to be doing a site visit the first week in April. I got to get through Chapter 94s and go through. What we're really concentrating on is the sequence of construction and what loads we can take off at what times. That will tell me the amount of temporary facilities. When I'm talking temporary facilities, I'm talking about a generator that will be on 3 tractor trailers. So this is not an insignificant thing in there. So they want to come out and they have written a draft sequence of construction. We want to go over that in the field with the operations people and say, can we do this? They're also taking this as an opportunity to kind of consolidate some of our motor control centers. That's where the motor starters are. Basically, as we expanded, the cheapest thing to do was to put it remotely. It doesn't make sense. Let's keep them all together from safety. So they're doing a lot of that. So once we get the sequence of construction, identify the temporary controls, then they're going to complete the cost estimate. They have all the equipment. They basically have all the labor. They're like, Fred, we don't know how we're doing this. And, how many times we're mobilizing in there. So we're going to do that. We're doing the same thing with the influent pump station. So I honestly need to get through Chapter 94 reports this week. And then we're going to schedule it the first 2 weeks of April. They've reached out to me with their dates, and I said, I need to get my reports done and then go into it with a clear head. That completes my report unless the board has any questions. And I didn't want to blow through the electrical upgrade. I mean, I just, I'll know a lot more once I have that sequence of construction, and it's dollars. And then it's going to be the impact on the guys of how I take this thing down.
How long do you think you'll be on temporary power?
How long will it be out there? How long will it be on temporary power? Temporary power, I will probably be on for 3 to 5 days.
So
How
you'll
long do I
have-
think it'll be out there? 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
Because,
Do we
quite
have
honestly,
space for that big of a,
I'm going to have to close half the road.
that's what I was gonna ask you.
I'm going to have to close half the road.
Okay.
And unfortunately, Public Works is right across the, so obviously, we're not doing it, we're going to try to do it in the summer, but it's just as cheap. I can rent them for 3 months for the same price as 3 weeks.
Elm Street.
And
I think, or just.
so let me further explain. The reason I say 3 months is that even though I put this down in, and so I had my temporary outage, we switched all over, I'm back on power, I shut my emergency generators off. If something's gonna go wrong,
Right in front of the plant.
80% of the errors happen in the first 2 weeks.
The one right over there.
So I want to have it there that I can just shut it right back down and do it right again. So that's kind of how I've done these. And, and I've spent a lot of time talking to Keystone about my experiences. They have much more experiences than I do on plants of this size, shutting them down. And most of my plants are, it's not a big deal. We're in the middle of, we're at the intersection of Schuylkill River and Perkiomen River. There's nobody around. I got 300 yards, as long as I don't have a flood, it's no big deal. I don't have parking for you guys. I'm going to shut down half the road. So we're basically it's a one-lane road now, basically. We're going to make it one way, and we're going to make sure they can get it out of Public Works.
It is one way.
That's what I mean. I said it's already one way, but we're really going to make it one way. It's going to be.
One lane, one way.
One lane, one way, no parking on that side, and we're going to pull up on the sidewalks, and nobody can walk down that side. So, I mean, literally almost like, I'm going to basically put a chain link fence from, this is not official.
Correct.
But think of it as, I'm going to take my existing chain link fence, I'm going to run it out to the yellow line, and I'm going to park my trailers behind it. And basically fence them in.
Is that part of Elm Street, a state road?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so, and there are some of the things that we're kind of working our way through right now, just on when I say temporary facilities and sequence of construction, they're the things, because, how much is that, getting that in there? How do I safely get the cables in? Because honestly, my switch gear's at either end and my MCCs are in the middle. So I got to run power, in there. And, those generators should really never run. They should only run if, I lose so I have 2 power sources. I'm taking one down and I'm replacing it. If the second one goes down, and it could be a, car accident, or it could be a true power outage. Does it suck to be the people who live down there for those 12 hours? It's going to be loud.
Yeah, I'm only thinking about some of the businesses down there. We're gonna have to
Yeah.
make sure
We
that
should be
we're good
far enough-
neighbors to them.
Services is probably the only real one there.
Yeah, there's nobody really close.
Dominant plant.
I mean, and this is 90% chance it's going to be during a big rainstorm, and that, I mean, they have sound enclosures, but you got 3 tractor trailer engines running it, you know what I mean? It's not, I'm not going to tell anybody that it's not going to be objectionable, And I'm going to do it during the summer when everybody's got their windows open. Hopefully it doesn't turn on.
Right.
And it shouldn't turn on, but I can't take the chance.
Little businesses there, like the dog-
Yeah, it's
The dog place,
it's the
the
little ones.
dog place.
Down,
There's
down
2 fitness centers.
Yep,
on Walnut, where Walnut meets.
they're the ones I was
Yeah,
thinking
before-
about.
Yeah, they're the people that,
But you're talking about further.
A little bit
Well,
further down.
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't,
Conshohocken Brewery,
Like Edwards Freeman?
aren't they right there?
area?
No, down a little bit further where those little businesses are.
I mean, I would say if you're 100 yards from the treatment plant, you're not gonna hear it. you may hear a slight hum in the background.
Those places you named are definitely close.
Right in there.
And there's houses in between residential homes, probably about 5 of them.
That's what I was thinking about, people across the street, and even one hill
It'll
up.
only be loud when they're on.
Oh, the only time you'll hear it. They should never turn on, but, you know, I can't guarantee it, you know. They're not parked out there because they're not needed,
Right. Yeah, okay.
you know.
We'll probably have to do some consumer relation type of work with that when we get to that point.
Yeah, and honestly, the people, like, when we did the, much lesser, but when we did the odor control, we had a pretty big impact, you know, when we were doing that construction, and they were really good. Now, granted, they were getting a huge benefit directly to them. You know.
Okay. All right.
All right. That completes my report unless the board has any questions.
Any additional
motion.
questions?
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna say, make a motion to
Oh,
accept the report.
All right, I got a motion
I'll second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next up is the operating manager's report.
I have one action item, consideration to get rid of take the our old hydro flushing truck. Truck's a 1993, it's 32 years old, has 41,000 original miles on it. But we have a state-of-the-art truck that we're using now, and it's really, there's no sense maintaining it, or insuring it, or even just having it on the grounds.
This one we lent to White Marsh for a while?
Correct.
Yeah.
What's the process?
I've never done this.
Do you do
I can put
it
on
out
my-
on Municipid?
That's right, you can get the most traction in this year.
Anyone opposed to putting the jet truck out on Municipid?
I guess if the other one goes down, then you just rent another one or something? Is that, like, if your current primary one goes down, do you, is this one operating as a backup right now for us?
We work with White Marsh, we go back and forth.
Yeah, okay.
Work with White Marsh, go back.
Mutual aid?
It's mutual aid.
You don't need it every day.
Yeah.
So if it's gotta be in the shop for 2 weeks, it's probably not the end of the world.
And we usually have a service on, like, standby for emergencies, like a local drain company, so.
Okay, cool. Great.
Okay.
think
Hearing
you're gonna
no objections, I need a motion to put it on Municipid. Do I have a motion to put that old jet truck on Municipid?
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, anyone opposed? Motion carries. Municipid away.
Couple things just to bring up. Greenfest is coming up this, in April, on the 26th. We plan on having another tent with some displays, maybe some handouts. And we seem to get some good responses from that. As I keep saying, May 16th, we'll be hosting the Apocoa quarterly meeting and plant tour. So doing a lot of work with that. I attended one in Reading last Friday, just getting some last pointers and seeing how they do everything. And so it's going to be pretty much a half-a-day thing at the plant. People are going to come. They're going to have a giant circus tent there. It's going to be maybe 40 or 50 vendors under that tent. Then there's going to be tours of the plant. And then afterwards, everybody gets bused to Spring Mill Firehouse, where there's going to be a luncheon and then the meeting. So it's great recognition. It's a great way for other people to learn about the two things we're really going to highlight are the RBCs and the odor control, because they're very rare in a lot of plants. So I'm really excited about that. So the announcement should be done this week. As soon as it is, I'll distribute it to you guys so you can all see it.
On the Green Fest, would you put anything about hiring there, you think, or not?
We could. I think we did last time.
I thought you did too.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely.
Even if
You gotta be a little careful, because you're inviting all the operators from all the other treatment plants over, and they kind
Well,
of view you as poaching.
Sorry, at the Green Fest.
Hello? Hello?
Oh, Green Fest. Oh, I think about
Yeah, that would have been like.
I would be smart.
I
That's even
don't
smarter.
get coaching. This isn't talking
like his
dumb
idea
girls.
better.
Highest bidder.
That would be a little greasy. No, I think we did that last year. I think we did that at Fun Fest also. We have a whole table poster and. Did
And
we
you had
have
the toilets.
application last year, didn't we? think we did.
Yeah, I think we had applications.
Great.
And if there's no questions, that completes my report.
All right. Motion to accept the operations manager report.
I'll make a motion.
I got a motion
I'll
and a
second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, next up is the executive director's report.
So mine's going to be brief, basically. You know, we were at Thaddeus Stevens a month or two ago, and working with our solicitor's office, we did make an offer to one of the applicants that showed up to our open house. His name's Henry Ricks, and we'll see if it goes. That would be the replacement of our gentleman that resigned from us last month. So, we'll see.
That's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
This guy's 7 miles away.
It's just perfect. I actually said 17 minutes from here, so we looked out. So,
Great.
other than that, you heard Fred and our organic loaning. And the last item, we are still looking at, obviously, moving to get the PICO grant, which will close out next May. We're soliciting some concepts with getting the VFDs, and we'll go from there. If we can get some grant funds through them for lowering our kilowatt usage, it's necessary, knowing that what's in front of us with this major increase with electric coming up. Just, you know, I don't know if I've told you before, you're looking at a 100% increase over the next 5 years.
Did we submit the grant app?
No, not yet. I want to,
So when you get to that point, let me know, because I will write some letters to folks to let them know that it's out there.
Can you go after that yourself, you think, or do you need?
no, it's just basically what to do is we have to prove what we're existing with our demand usage now, then we do our install, and then they do before and after and look at our kilowatts usage, and then they basically pay, they actually will give grants for reimbursement of our equipment. And if our kilowatt demand goes way down, they'll reimburse us for that as well, because obviously the grids are being stressed.
So do you have to do all the work yourself to pull all that data together?
They'll actually come in, their consultant comes in and puts all their analyzers in the facility.
Okay.
And they'll start collecting data, and they usually want about 3 months. The data, before we do it and then after.
We just pay for the VFDs, I guess, is that, yeah.
We don't, if you do a quick balance, the way that our digesters are working, and as Fred has explained, we're decanning, doing this, we don't have to have our 75 horsepower running full max. During the winter months, you can lower it, during the summer months, it depends on demand, but if we have above, quick analysis, if we're above 2.0, I'm wasting energy. And there's a lot of time I'm wasting energy at 2.0 with our 75 horsepower. And the plan is, having our operators adjust the speed so we can lower demand of electric.
That equipment can take those VFDs or whatever, like it could be okay.
That basically completes my report.
Any questions about Brent's report?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Second?
I got a second.
I wanted to be sure.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Executive Director's report accepted. Motion carries. Anyone have any old business or new business you'd want to talk about?
I do.
Okay.
And I know I forget his name, our solicitor.
Solicitor Mike.
Was looking into the cybersecurity insurance. Do you have any update? You do.
So
Turn on your microphone, please.
I did that. So we got one quote. We just got it literally, one today and one last week. So there was one quote from Beasley Insurance, and that one was about 1,500. I think it was like 1,560, but the limits were a little lower. Then there was another second proposal. The price was $7,480.18, with a little bit higher limits.
What's the time period of that amount? Is that an annual?
That's annual,
Annual.
yes. So I don't believe that we've actually looked over them we haven't had the chance to look over them to see what we're going to do, but we are getting the quotes.
Is the quotes just for the evaluation of our system or to insure us
To
in the
insure.
future? Okay.
To ensure that,
What is our, I'll say risk profile?
Bless you, bless you.
We're using Conshocken's borough's server facility, right? Our, I don't know what it's called, anyway, not the Dallas system, but our finance and accounting system is cloud-based, right?
yes,
We log into that, so the security's on them. Okay,
Yes.
Our responsibility to make sure they have it, so what are we looking at cybersecurity for?
It was at the equipment at the plant and being
Okay.
able to remotely control things.
Okay, do we have that yet? No.
We're going to have view only, correct?
Well, right now, we
Initially?
have nothing.
Right.
We are moving to a view only, and then, you know.
And then eventually
eventually,
being
you know,
able to
control.
remotely control.
And that's where the industry's going,
Right,
ultimately.
right.
And cybersecurity is, there's different levels. I'm certainly not an expert in this field by any stretch, but yes, you want to make sure that whatever you subscribe to, whether it be an accounting platform or whatever, they have their cybersecurity, but you are also responsible for your end from you have an internet provider and you're gaining access. Like, what is the security at your end? They can secure their servers. What are you doing to protect yours? So that's where, just want to make sure that people's information is protected, because once there's a breach, you can't undo damage
Right.
from brand.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
that's where my questioning
cybersecurity
was.
breach, and, you know, I used to say in my previous jobs, I was like, we have one issue, it's like not a big deal. We have that on page 2 of the Wall Street Journal.
Exactly,
Right?
exactly.
My issue is that most of our risk is associated with external suppliers like Conshohocken,
Yes.
or Conshohocken, Verizon, and whoever the
Dallas
software is.
Data.
Dallas Data? I was going to say Dallas, right? And so our responsibility is them and the individual machines, which is mostly, at the machine level, it's mostly about the people.
Yes.
For sure. Do we already have multi-factor authentication for remote access for everything? From that perspective?
And that's through Conshohocken, right?
I don't know. I don't know who holds the multi-factor authenticator.
First wave,
next wave,
or next,
Next Wave holds
next
that?
wave, yes, yeah,
next.
Okay.
yes.
What do they do, provide security at
Next wave is our IT,
the, oh, okay, our IT service provider.
our IT service provider, yes,
And they
so
provide service to us, or they provide service to the borough, and then.
both. They provide service to both, so,
We hold two separate contracts though, right?
yes.
So, to me, it's more a matter of identifying what the risk is first, before.
Right, and third parties have been known to be the problem, the breakdown. Because that's what happened to Target.
So do we really
It wasn't
need a risk
Target,
assessment?
It was their third party.
I think we would do that before we go.
Before we
spending
buy
anything, yeah.
insurance?
Yeah. And, you don't want to have next wave do it, because they're.
So I would suggest for some of the stuff we talk about, risk assessment, we should be in executive session. If we're going to talk about that, so I don't we could talk about it.
I mean, I think the public needs to know that we're thinking about
This
risk
PA
assessment and stuff.
One of my clients, Warren Township Water and Sewer Authority, just had it done by, it was either PA Rural or, I'll find out exactly who. We have to get a report next month. So I'll let you know, and it was, they did a freebie, and they had an outside consultant come in and kind of peer edit it.
I mean, I would venture to say we're at minimal spec requirements for security, right? We need to determine, is that enough,
Yeah.
or, right?
What
The
is our
problem is
exposure?
it's not in our policy at all.
Right.
Yeah, we're not covered, yeah.
Okay. More to come once we
And
see the
rates are
quotes.
only going to go up for
Wouldn't these
cybersecurity.
third-party firms, if their stuff gets in trouble, wouldn't they have to have some sort of coverage that would extend to us then, or?
I don't know how that was handled with the
Doesn't matter, you're all
Target
brought in a
breach.
lawsuit, you know what I mean?
But
You're all
people-
brought in a lawsuit, you gotta
It's
have
in the
insurance,
SLA.
otherwise.
People don't remember the third-party company name when there's a breach. They remember the
Who-
one throat
who
to
they-
choke.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
Alright.
like, would like adding more security make as much sense as having insurance than if we're worried about security? I don't know.
I think you need a risk assessment to
Yeah, I
say
don't
where
think
you're
you'd be
at.
able to
They
add
need to
more
look at your
security.
current contracts and see.
I don't think any of us know enough
Yeah.
to make,
I think the purpose of a risk assessment is to tell you what kind of coverage and that you need.
Right.
Because I don't think you know, I
Right.
know I don't know.
right, I don't
You know
know
what I mean?
either.
Like, I think you need a third party to go in and evaluate your system and say, you know, two answers, you know, like Jack said, this is what you need to upgrade, and B, this is what coverage you need.
Right.
You know, because and I think it will change over time. So I don't think it's a bad, I mean, that was one of the things that was eye-opening to me at my last authority meeting, actually, last night, was getting an understanding from them, from board members asking them, what type of coverage should we get? You know, what should it, what should the policy be involved? There's a difference between a $7,500 policy and a $1,700 policy, more than limits.
Right.
Coverage. I don't know what that difference is, and me
Right.
reading, or any of us probably reading that, we don't know. You know, that's not what we do. We need an expert to tell us, this is what you need.
You also need to know what you have in your existing contracts.
Yeah.
Right.
And you'd actually, that's where you need the consultant on. The
Right.
free thing is, hey, these are what your contract cover, this is what your exposure is.
Right. So we probably just need to budget for it.
Yeah.
We just need to budget for it.
I think if we're just,
I'm concerned about, we got all this AI, we've listed us, and do a search on us, and they can go after us.
Go after us for what?
Yes, and I'm really concerned.
For what?
AI, they can go in our, this is going live out, they can do our things, and go in there and go put on, a search, you're talking about this. I'm telling you, you really should be talking about this.
Each one of these is picking
But,
up, right?
but Nat, I disagree with that. This is us talking about spending money that is
Yeah.
residents. I get what we're not disclosing anything other than the fact that we are interested to make sure that we have the security required.
from my perspective is that if we're talking about a potential expenditure, I do think that that's appropriate for public. If we are talking about a specific concern with a vulnerability that the authority may have.
I don't think we know that we have a
Right,
vulnerability, so that's why I think that this discussion is public, that we are, at least as a board, thinking about what we need to do as next steps. So, yes, if there was a thought that there was, but I don't think that we think that. I think that we're preparing for what the world is bringing
I
us.
haven't heard any description of specific concern. I think
Right.
we're speaking about this in general terms as a, something financially that the board is thinking about spending
Correct.
money on. I think that we're,
okay.
Do you think the
but anything more specific, I would agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
would Conshohocken board be interested in, like, if we're gonna be like evaluating our own systems, would it make sense to partner with?
I believe that they had one done last year.
Oh, they did,
That's
okay.
why,
Oh, interesting.
that's why you would bring that
Yeah, that's
into
why I
play.
want to have a conversation with them. as well.
Correct. I mean, this is a project,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
This
I
is
know. I'm
a
just-
strategic
I'm always
plan.
conservative with, I don't want us to,
It's always good to keep in mind that AI is out.
Yeah, I
there,
mean,
would say.
it's very good to bring it up,
Yeah.
so that,
I'm glad you brought it up.
I'll have a
Except if you brought it up, it's
conversation
probably
with Conshohocken Borough, because we're together.
just we're strategically looking at
Right.
our data.
There are service providers, yes.
You obviously found value in what you did with the borough,
Yes,
and that's why you're suggesting it.
correct,
Generic, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
correct.
excellent.
Because we're not the experts in that field, for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, that's why I asked you, because I saw some of these studies, you're like, this was a waste, where you're like, no, this is really educational and,
I don't have any more questions or
All right,
topics.
thanks for starting that. Thanks for starting that discussion. All right, anyone else have any new business, old business? Hearing none, I will take a motion to adjourn the meeting with the idea that we have an executive session to follow.
Make the motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.